Hello, I'm Christine Cornels, your co-host on New Mexico Landscaping Television, and on this episode we will be talking about xeriscaping. To help us learn more about xeriscaping, I'm talking with Louise Gianni, who's a landscape architect of Osuna Nursery in Albuquerque. Louise is an expert on xeriscaping. So glad to have you on the show, Louise.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. Thank you very much for coming in.
And we would love to find out from you, what is xeriscaping and why is it important to New Mexico?
Well, xeriscape is a term from the Greek language, and it is referencing water conservation. We started to, as an industry, look to techniques in order to save water in the landscape, but also how to work with the ecosystem that you're actually living in that particular region. So the elevation, what's the natural precipitation, the soil, what plant material thrives here naturally. We're probably going to see increasingly pressure to use less water in the landscape. That, as a residential use, that is the biggest consumer of domestic water.
Landscaping is? Oh.
Domestic water is the most expensive water available, right? Okay, it's already been processed, it's been through a plant, it's been
clean,
through a pipe.
You can drink it.
Yes, it's had to meet very high standards of water quality. And so we have to understand that those costs are going to be more, they're going to be passed on to us more. You know, you're looking at, what you can do to reduce those water bills. It's one way to think about it is to try to establish more of a harmonious ecosystem out on your property. It's understanding that we have a certain type of soil.
Okay.
We have very extreme changes in temperature. You know, we can vary 40 degrees in one night.
In one day, yes.
Yeah. And there's a lot of plant material that is, it finds it very difficult to thrive with those soil conditions and those temperature changes and the wind and just the overall proximity to the sun. We're going to see more intense solar, activity here, and that desiccates plants. It actually draws moisture out of plants, draws moisture out of you.
Yes, it does.
You've probably noticed that.
Yes, absolutely.
So, since we've got this, the most expensive water, we want to be able to use it in a very effective way. So we want to deliver that to the plants in a way that they can utilize that moisture, and we want to retain that moisture in the soil as long as we can. And we want to have plant material that is not picky about our clayey, gravelly, sandy soils that don't have a lot of organic material.
Yeah.
Plants that are maybe more adapted to regions in the east or the northwest. They're a plant material that appreciates a more acidic soil, a richer soil, more humic soil,
and a lot more
and
water
a lot more moisture as well. So, so I think when we're talking about xeric landscapes, we're really talking about landscapes that are appropriate and adapted to our region, and that when we're working with that understanding, we have more stability in the landscapes.
And I suppose some of that understanding, so if I'm a property owner and I would like to xeriscape and landscape in the way that you're talking about, what sort of things do I need to look at my property so I can be prepared to select the appropriate plants?
Well, I think, a good place to start is to have like a little sketch or maybe the plat map that came with the property.
Oh,
or you can just take some measurements.
Sure.
And guesstimate, where your house is, where the doors are, where the windows are. You want to understand kind of the existing property.
Where it is relative to your living space.
Where it is relative to living space, where it is relative to the sun.
Okay.
What exposures are where. You want to see kind of, there's the perimeter. What's around your property. And maybe there's views that you want to enhance, or maybe there's areas that you'd like to not see. You'd like to
Yes.
have a little more screening, or with the wind, we can look at buffering. It's just making those few little notes, kind of.
And actually, I'm hearing you say that, to do that, not even thinking about what types of plants yet. It's really about what is your vision for that
What have you
area,
got?
for that property.
What have you got to work with? It's your basic inventory,
Okay.
you know.
Okay.
So you got to start with that. What have I got?
Sure.
And then understanding that, then you can start to write down all the things that you'd like to be able to do, or see, or have, or issues, or all that stuff down. Just write it down, make a big long list,
Okay.
and then you just highlight it and go, that's the biggest priority for me. I want shade. We have a
Okay.
lot of people that come in here and say, please help me.
Yes, here in New Mexico.
Parched.
I
And
understand
shade
that.
is hugely important. It can change
Yeah.
the entire temperature around your property.
Right.
And placed in the right locations, it can save on heating bills inside, and just help with modifying the sun on the windows. So there's all these other little relationships that you start to see,
Right.
in what's happening in your landscape, which is just really another outdoor room. Whether it's just something that it's an area that you're just looking at, or you're occupying, or maybe you're growing vegetables, you want to be able to have a crop. It's a whole systemic way of looking at the property. So once you understand what your goals are, then you can start to say, well, maybe this part of my property, which is right outside my back door, that's where I want to barbecue and entertain. And then you figure, well, maybe 12 by 10 sort of a space, and that's where I want most of my color, because I really like to see, fall colors, spring colors, summer. I want to see a lot of changes in that particular area. So
xeriscaping doesn't have to be kind of one monotone stone
absolutely
color, or
not.
one cactus color.
No,
it can be a lot of other colors.
There's the complete spectrum of the rainbow.
Great.
And you can say maybe, well, this is an area that I might do a little higher water usage. But you contain that, and you understand, okay, well, this other area over here, maybe that's an area that I don't use very much. And I just want it to be maybe wildlife habitat. You want to have some water for the birds, and maybe big shrubs that they can
So you can
hang
plant
out
some
in.
vegetation that can help attract wildlife to your property as well.
I think it's kind of nice to have sort of a little theme to the different zones that you plant around your property. So that you have an entertainment zone, or you have, kind of your growing zone, and you can select plant material for a zone that's maybe defined for wildlife. Bee attractors, that's a big topic in the news these days.
Yes.
Pollinators are in decline, and so just having a little bit of water, select the right plant material, and you can create a fairly stable environment with lower maintenance. Right.
And I imagine, does that mean then sort of reevaluating, assessing every couple years of, okay, am I really using this lawn, or can I use it for something different, or am I really entertaining here, or do I do something different? Do you recommend that people periodically assess how they have it landscaped?
Well, it's going to change for lifestyles too, because we change. Everything changes,
we do.
right?
We do,
so
yes.
there's always opportunity to transform an area that maybe what you had determined was not an area that you were really interested in. So you put just some big shrubs around, and then you say, oh, you know what, I really want to try a garden over here, and so you put in a raised bed, and but it helps if you start off with kind of a zoning area that you think is going to work pretty well for the long run, because then you can set up your irrigation systems that support that. And I think the thing that is important is understanding that you want to group those kinds of plants together. So you don't want to use a high water consuming plant like a big shade tree right in the middle of your agave garden,
right,
cactus garden.
What are the different ways that you can irrigate kind of the different zones? It sounds like some zones, because they'll require more water, may require a different style of irrigation than the zones of less water. What are some of the ways that you can irrigate?
I guess one of the bigger shifts we're seeing is in the areas where you're doing grasses and turf, because we have a lot of wind here, and then the water evaporates so quickly. There's some underground systems now, and so you can start off by doing a really good soil mix, and then you lay out this grid irrigation system and then put your turf over the top of it. And so when you turn it on, you never really, spray water into the air.
It's
not
delivered
being
directly through evaporation
to the roots.
Oh, okay.
Right, and that's where it's really needed.
Sure.
And that helps prevent runoff. Really probably going to see the city of Albuquerque getting more and more strict about wastewater.
Now, how about rain barrels? Using barrels to collect rainwater. How does that work for?
You can capture all of the water that comes off of your garage, your house, or your shed, or what have you.
And you do that by just setting a barrel up at one of the spouts, or?
There's a couple different ways. You can do a spout, and then you can direct the spout into the barrel. Our storm events come pretty swift and strong and voluptuous.
Yes, yes.
So people are finding that one rain barrel really doesn't get it. So sometimes they're like setting 3 or 4 up.
Oh, meaning that it overflows, or so much rain. Oh,
There's so much rain that we get in one event. It doesn't trickle down. Like, we're getting great trickle down right now, but usually we get monsoons. So it all comes at once.
Yeah.
And so then once you've got that in the barrel, you can use it, in a number of different ways. It's a gravity-fed system. You just attach a drip line to it, or run a hose out to, like, for instance, there are some evergreens, broadleaf evergreens and pines that really appreciate the rainwater.
There's probably a lot of common errors or things that we do that we don't realize is actually hurting us or hurting the soil. Are there some common errors that you see that property owners do when they go to landscape? Maybe things that they haven't thought about properly, or?
Well, I guess one of the things that we really emphasize is conditioning the soil, because I see a lot of people discouraged gardening here because they just put their plants into our native soil without really conditioning it much, and then these plants die, and it's frustrating.
And conditioning. And what does conditioning mean?
Conditioning is a practice of adding organic material like compost, topsoil that has micronutrients in it, even composted chicken manure, all composted anything that you can work into the soil, mixing it with the native soil.
Okay.
We recommend like a 50-50 mix. Okay, so that's the actual profile of the soil that you're trying to create better water absorption into, and just a better oxygen, all these little pieces of the system that help the plants thrive.
It's not just picking the right plants, it's also preparing the entire area.
The whole area. It's understanding to your agave cactus garden, you may only need it for irrigation there for a couple of years. Once it's established, that can be a very sustainable, non-irrigated.
Oh, it can. Just by the amount of rainwater we get here in New Mexico would be sufficient once it's established.
Yeah, once it's established.
And established means kind of the
root systems have spread out into the soil, and they are, the cactus and those kinds of plants have an amazing, vast, enormous root system. They're very sneaky about how they get hold of their nutrients and moisture. So we can help it with, a rock cobble mulch, but, don't confine yourself to one material. People can mix that up with various sizes of rocks, and even using some bark mulch, and can it create more of a pattern?
Well, Louise, it's so wonderful to talk to you, and I wanted to be sure if there's anything else that you can think of, any other tips you'd like to provide to our viewers who are thinking of xeriscaping.
Having a plan and strategy, knowing your goals, and setting those goals, like any goal. but in a incremental ways, so you can feel that success in the project. And asking for help. There's lots of help in the community.
Where can they go for
here.
help?
You can go to the Extension Service. A lot of the Parks Departments and the open space programs are also offering classes.
Oh, I didn't realize
Yeah,
that.
and the Master Gardeners, they are very active in our community, and there's little clubs. There's a Xeriscape Club.
And is that a
Rose
special
Club.
title, Master Gardener?
Yes, it is. You have to go through testing and all. Yeah.
Great. Well, Louise, thank you so much for having us, and we're excited. And please come down to Osuna Nursery, meet Louise and the other experts that are here, and they'll help you with xeriscaping your yard.